Hello, 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 everybody. Let's get this party started, huh? How's everybody doing? Let me see if I can get some music going or something here, huh? All right, I got a little bit of a new background, so that's kind of exciting, right? I'm hoping to maybe get some more guests this way. If you're just coming in, please tap that screen and share out the live. We want to see should God be taught in schools? That's what I want to know. Because some people think that he should be, some people think that he shouldn't. So maybe we can find out whether or not God should be taught in schools. If you're interested and you're on TikTok, you can actually join by clicking the little request button. It's the little pink and blue guy there. It should allow you to request up. Pull up my little thing. All right. Okay. How's everybody doing today, huh? Doing all right? Share the live out if you can. Tap that screen. Let's get this party started. Maybe I should play some music. I'm trying to find something for my nephew, DV Soybean, with a money sign instead of an S. Let me go here. Singles and EPs. How's so yeah, should God be taught in schools? That's what I want to know. If anybody is out there who is Christian and believes that God should be taught in both public and private schools, I'd like to hear why. Because it should be a pretty benign subject. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but I think that we can learn about things like beliefs in schools, but can we, actually teach God in schools with it still being like fair? I guess that's the real question, isn't it? Because are you giving too much preference to Christianity? Establishment clause says no. Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. They're already putting Bibles in schools in Oklahoma, so I guess it's up to the state. My question is should it be? Should God be taught in schools? For all of those that are coming in, if you're on TikTok, tap the screen, share the live out. Let's see what we can get going here. If you are watching on YouTube, you can call in by using the little tinyurl.com/deconjunk at the very top there. And it will allow you to call in with a phone, or if you have like a camera and microphone on a computer, that would work too. I may have gotten things to work with audio between the two apps, so we'll see how that works out. Let me see. I lost my little song that I used to play here by my nephew. There it is. There we go. Maybe this will kind of get things going. Hey Nick, how's it going? Sure, what's the problem? Uh Join up and we can talk about it. I don't want to interact with chat so much as I want to actually like discuss this with somebody. So if you could, you can join up on TikTok by it's going. Yeah, agreed. All right. So, how's everybody doing? Post while it's fresh. One new highlight mix. Oh, I can already post a highlight while it's live still? TikTok, you're impressing me. All right. Let's see. Should God be taught in schools, specifically the Christian God? That's one thing. Oh, thanks for the little intro beat, Jermaine. Yeah, it's my nephew DV Soybean with a money sign. He's on all streaming applications. Absolutely. Why have we do why have do much violence at schools? God is not present, Satan is. Come on, there is only one God. Are you sure about that, Martha? Uh let's discuss. You can always come up by clicking the little pink and blue person right there, and I'll let you up, and we can, have a civil debate or a discussion about this. Absolutely. So come on. Do you have the like ability to come onto a live? I would like to discuss this with you. Hi, Mom. Personally, I think that God can be taught in schools in a certain way. It depends. Looks like we do have somebody up here. Joseph Dreams, are you there? Hold on, I can't hear you for some reason. Let me fix this. Um, I think I know why. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Can chat hear him? That's me being ridiculous as usual. Say something again there. Joseph, can you hear me? No, chat, you can't hear him either. What is going on? Let's see. Default. Nothing there. Yeah, you might have to get out and come back in. For some reason I can't hear you. I'm gonna actually I'll boot you real quick, and then come right back up. Okay, Joseph. I don't know why it's not working. I have a few ideas. Let's see here. Pick 66 sound settings. Mixer. What is my opinion on paganism? I think it's fine. I don't really have like too much of a big issue with it. I think that paganism is just, you know, a person's belief. They don't really like try to push it too much on people. No, Joseph, I couldn't hear you. I'm not sure if that was you or if that was me. What I'm trying to do here is figure that out. Let's see if I can get another guest up here. Yeah, Nick. I'm gonna have Nick come up real quick just to see if I can hear you. Nick, say something for me. Nothing. Goodness gracious. Hold on. Um, can you say something, Nick? Let me turn on monitor audio effects. I think I figured it out here. General settings. Can everybody else hear him? Nick, say something.
Testing.
Okay, now I can hear you. All right. Sorry about that.
Dang it, I was
Okay.
about to start talking shit and now you can
It's
hear me
all right.
again.
Yeah, don't don't talk too much shit. All right, let me see here. I got streets theology. Are you there? Can I get your age real quick?
23.
23. All right. So streets theology. Should God be taught in schools?
No,
No. Interesting.
no, it should not. And I am a Christian.
Okay. Explain.
So, number one, and a lot of Christians really mess this up. And the reason is because God, the Bible, and your religious beliefs are to be taught in the home.
Okay.
They are not to be taught by other people. It is to be taught by the spiritual leader of the house, who is the husband. And also, when you start allowing Christianity into schools, you have to allow everything else. I think we can both agree that's the way the Constitution is. If
Yeah,
the Christians
separation
are
of church
there,
and state.
the Muslims have to be able to come in there. The pagans, the Satanists, the Jews, the Seventh Day Adventists, the all of them have to be there because you can't have one without the other. So I
Right.
think there should be a true separation, and it should be taught in the homes. And I'm not sitting here saying that if there's a Christian teacher that he shouldn't be allowed to talk about his beliefs, but he should not be allowed to indoctrinate them into his beliefs because they are to be taught at the home. That's my stance.
Okay. So, you know, I can't really push back too far against that. It's interesting that you said that like the man of the house should be the spiritual leader. I'm
Mhm.
guessing that's just coming off of, like your specific doctrine that you practice. Is that correct?
I believe, well, the specific reason that I believe that, I don't know if you're Christian,
No,
or how you
I'm
believe.
agnostic.
Okay, so
Hey,
the
Polymom.
the
What's up?
the Bible clearly tells us that the wife is to submit to the husband, and a lot of Christians leave off that part, the next part, as the husband is supposed to submit to the Lord, right? So there's a chain of command. It's God, husband, wife. My wife is to submit to me, and I am supposed to submit to the Lord.
Okay.
So therefore, I am the head of the household, and Christ is the head of me.
Do you think that that's like a good hierarchy? I mean, like, is it all right for you to like disagree with your own doctrine? I guess that's first kind of question there.
Is it okay for me to disagree with my own doctrine? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
like I mean, can you have your own opinion? And like personally, I think that that's weird that a wife should submit to her husband. Like why not it be equal? I don't understand.
Oh, well, you are equal in the eyes of God, but there's a hierarchy. It's not like,
Wait, so
okay,
that's
my
two
wife.
like conflicting things that you just said right there. You said
Yeah,
that you're equal, but
it's
there's a hierarchy. If there's a hierarchy,
right.
then you're not equal.
So I serve my wife, right? I do everything for my wife. When
Okay.
I say that she is supposed to submit to me, it is not in the context of you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. That is not the submission that we're talking about. We're talking about full submission of the heart towards her husband, and then the full submission of the heart from the husband to the
S-
Lord, and both submit to Christ.
Okay. So like if your wife wanted to say she wanted to get pregnant,
Hmm.
um would you have to, like follow her wishes? Like say you weren't quite interested in it, but she did want to do
Hmm.
that. Would
Hmm.
you have to follow her wishes?
Would I have to, or should I? Is
Would you
the
have to?
thing. So the have to is
Because
no.
and
I
then
don't,
the other
don't
way
I
around,
don't
would she have to if you wanted to have a kid?
know, because I believe that we both should be like, when it comes to things like that, number one, you have to have consent from both parties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can't have a child without a man, you can't have a child without a woman. So if the woman's like, no, I'm not having a child, then there's no child to be had. If the man says, no, I'm not having a child, there's no child to be had. It has to
Okay.
be an agreement between the two. The Bible says, can two walk together lest they agree?
Right. Yeah, it's just I had heard like and I'm trying to like kind of narrow down like what
Hmm.
exactly. So like I guess what denomination do you follow? Maybe that can maybe help me out.
I'm reformed.
Reformed. Okay. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I lie under a majority of the Calvinistic teachings.
gotcha. Okay. Because like some doctrine or people like denominations they would say like basically the wife's consent is not really necessary, and that she should
Oh
just follow her husband's like demands. So like if he wants to have fun
no,
in the bed but she doesn't, then she has to still like go through with it even though she doesn't want to
I've
do that.
always said it like this: um, I rule the house, but she rules me. If that makes
Actually,
sense.
isn't it in the Bible that the woman rules the house?
Well, yeah,
And
she's the homemaker, but ultimately, my job is
oh, okay, but she
guidance.
rules you. Okay, I get what you're
Right,
saying
right.
now.
So
All
like
right.
so like she's not in charge of me per se, like we would think today. Like she doesn't come up to me and goes, "You have to go do this,"
Right.
and I don't go to her and say, "You have to do this." We have that submission to each other, just as I said, I have that submission to Christ. Even Christ Himself washed feet,
Right.
and that was an act of a role of just I am going to serve you, and so I try to serve my wife in the same way.
I've heard that washing feet just kind of like as a I've heard that that's actually referring to like grabbing them like below the pants, like but above the knees, if you know what I mean. Like
I
touching
don't know where you
desire.
heard that, but
I've
an actual.
I've heard that just more in the Old Testament sense. But who am I to say for sure? That was something that I had heard. I can't
And
really confirm or deny that one.
I see a thing down here in the comments that says, "If you are partners, why do you have a hierarchy?" So when you get married, you become one flesh. You and your wife are now one. That's also biblical.
Gotcha. So back to the subject here. So you don't think that God should be taught in schools, that the male of the house is the person that should probably be teaching the children, or do you think that they should go to like a church and learn from a church leader? I guess that was
I think
the
they should
question.
absolutely go to church. I'm not negating church, but everything starts in the house. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that's what we try to do every day. And that means if you go to church and they present a false teaching, which does happen, it is your job to go correct it in your home and let everybody know, hey, this is wrong. This is why it's wrong. This is where we find it in scripture, etc.
Gotcha. So, uh, let me see here. Trying to think if I have anything else for you. I mean, for the most part, you and I agree. Nick, did you have
Mhm.
any questions or anything that you wanted to ask? Otherwise, I do have
Yeah,
some
I
people in the
was
box.
just curious, to something you said. Is the fact that you would have to teach other religions in school the main reason why you don't want it taught?
Is that directed towards me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, it is not. The main
Okay,
reason is because once again, once you allow any public system to begin teaching that kind of stuff, it absolutely um, interferes with separation of church and state. And I don't believe that
okay,
they are to be together in any way for any religion, whether that be Christian, Islam, Hindu, whatever it is. The government is the government and religion is religion, and they are to remain separated. Matter of fact, this is a teaching that we do find in the Bible. Jesus says, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's."
Hmm.
Everybody hates paying taxes, but guess what? You still have to pay taxes and you still have to submit to that government unless the government goes against what the Bible teaches.
mm-hmm. Okay, Groovy. It's just something that you had said previously, so I wondered if that was like the main
No, I may have
reason.
misworded, but no, I believe in complete separation of church and state as a whole.
All right, streets.
Beautiful.
Well, I
I appreciate the
appreciate that.
conversation.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next guest. I do appreciate you coming up.
Absolutely.
I might have a new subject here in a little bit, so always come back around.
I'll keep an eye
So
out.
yeah,
All right. Thank
thank
you.
you. Yep, have a good one. I mean, I really can't like disagree with that one. I personally think that God is, yeah. I mean, if you keep it in your home and whatever, like if it's your religion, uh, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. As long as you're not forcing it on anybody, I still think that it's kind of weird to like force it on your kids in any way. Like indoctrinate or like groom your kids in any way. Like I would just leave it up to my children. Maybe like, kind of teach them what you follow. But not really like push them in one way or another. Crosshop, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can I get your age real quick?
36 now.
All right, 36. Should God be taught in schools?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and why so?
Well, part of it goes back to the beginning of, the U.S., that we were founded with the idea that, the doctrine or the rules that apply to Christians also is something that applies also. It's part of the Ten Commandments, and the part of the Ten Commandments are also part of some of the rules that we follow as
Have you ever read
Americans.
the Constitution?
I have not read it uh, cover to cover, no.
Oh, I would recommend that you should read the Constitution, because you just misquoted it. There's actually like right in the First Amendment, there's what they call the Establishment Clause, that says that there should be a separation of church and state. which means that there's no like presiding religion, right? That would be representative of the country of the United States of America. So it's interesting that you would think that. Could you go on like? Did somebody else teach you that like? Do you think that America's like built on Christian like values?
So yes, I actually do. So I grew up in the church as well. So for me, between the way that I grew up to the to looking into history, if you look at a majority of our founding fathers, more than half of them actually were weekly attenders of church that would actually go to church on a weekly basis, or as much as they could.
Oh well, I mean,
So
like
that's where a
perhaps
part of
a
the
church, but they weren't. They were actually anti-establishment. Um, like the one of the reasons they split from Great Britain, is because of the Church of or England, I guess. Is the Church of England was it was basically a theocracy at that time. So that means that the church had like a direct connection with how their country was governed, and that's something that they thought when we're going to establish this new country of the United States, that we won't have this establishment, and that's why they call it the Establishment Clause. In fact, in the First Amendment, like trying to keep that separation of church and state. Uh, but let's get back to like why you think God should be taught in schools, like beyond the Constitution, right? So, do you think that like God is, or like your faith, does that teach kids like good things, like how to act, or
I believe that there definitely are good morals in there. I do believe that there are situations that happened back in the day that made life a little more harder. So whatever happened in the past happened in the past, but at the same time, we've also learned from the past in order to better ourselves as human beings, so that we're not as mindless, as stupid, as however you want to word it, that we were back then compared to now.
okay? Um, do you mean like past as in like the like civil rights era, or like with slavery, or do you mean even further back, like the Old Testament? Like,
So I would
can you
actually
expand on that?
I would probably go the simplest one that I would want to go with is the is slavery.
Okay.
We all know that slavery was not good, and even if you look into the history of slavery, some people will try to connect it directly to just was it they use on TikTok here YT people.
Hmm.
But it's not just YT. If you look in history, even people, even kings and queens back in Africa and all other countries have all had, and some still do have slaves.
Okay.
So, so we just can't connect it to just that one thing.
Right. So, but in America, like most slave owners weren't like black, and I guess I should have maybe put the little bit of like in the United States, because that's where I am, and that's where I'm guessing you are. What's happening in Africa? I mean, slavery in general, I think, is an awful thing for anyone
Agreed.
to do. Um, but like as far as like the Bible goes, that there's actually like provisions, and like uh God condones slavery in Leviticus, like where he says, like, as for the male and female slaves whom you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may require or acquire them, and you can pass them down to your children, and you can keep them as property. So it's interesting that you would say that, like, God is this reflection of good morals and everything, but it's actually quite the opposite when I read these passages in Leviticus.
Trying to remember if Leviticus is. Let's see.
Yeah, I can try
Okay.
and pull it up.
Leviticus is Old Testament, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we also got to make sure that we also remind us too that, what happened in Old Testament compared to New Testament,
Hmm.
there is that new doctrine that Jesus started showing like, hey, we're all equal, we're all human beings here. We all bleed the same blood. So we need to treat each other as we would ourselves.
But he doesn't mention any. So like, treat each other like refers to the other man. So like, or other humans. So, and even then, Jesus does make a distinction between like the other Hebrews and like the Gentiles. But as far as slavery and Leviticus goes, like if you have a slave, they're considered property. They're not considered like anything near like what a human would be considered. They'd be like akin to, like a vase or I'm trying to think of something like a bed, uh, or like a door, or like it's property, not like an actual human being. So like, because you may keep them, like Leviticus 25, chapter 25, 46 says like you may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. So like that's taken away that like human autonomy that they might have had, that Jesus could have been referring to.
Remember too, I believe it's in the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where it also says to go into all nations and make tribes of all nations. That's referring to every human being, every skin color, every lifestyle that they live.
Okay, so you're saying like that they are good for going into these other nations and getting slaves?
No, I'm saying that they say that you should go ahead and when God sent his 12 disciples out into the world, he told them to go and make children, or sorry, let me rephrase that. To go ahead and make followers of Christ in all nations.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a certain nationality or that you have to be a certain whatever. You just have to be someone who understands Jesus's laws and follows his laws. He
Okay.
doesn't care where you're from. He doesn't,
But one of
pick and choose
Jesus's
anybody.
laws is like like to own slaves, according to Leviticus. Like if Jesus is the God of the Old Testament, as I believe most Christians would agree that he is.
I would disagree with that because
Oh,
his
are you not?
doctrine.
Okay. Are you not like a
I am
Trinitarian?
actually no. I am a Christian who believes in the New Testament.
Oh, so
I
like just
believe
New
that
Testament only, huh?
I do believe that what happened in the Old Testament is something that we can still learn from. But I also feel like too that when he created the new doctrine, when Jesus gave his life up for the sins for us to be able to allow us into heaven, I believe that that was also the option too to say, hey, you have the option to start over now. You can ask God for forgiveness. You can get have your sins washed away in the blood of the Lamb. And it doesn't mean that, you're perfect or anything. It just means that you're going to have somebody who's going to be there to help you and that you need to follow his laws in order for you to uh, get into heaven,
Okay.
or his testimonies, his
So
testaments.
so if they follow the law of, like, as for like as part of Leviticus, it's saying that you can have slaves. So if they go and have slaves, then that's fine.
No, that's the Old Testament. We're referring to the New Testament
But
now.
I mean, Jesus like refers to like the Old Testament in the New Testament, right? So like in Matthew, I think it's like chapter 5, Jesus says that, like I come not to, abolish the law, but to fulfill them. And he's like referring to the law and the prophets, like, which is two books of the Old Testament.
Yeah, he also says that when they went over and say when they're talking about, I can't think what the guy. I had to figure out how to rephrase that. Give me a second. When he goes over and actually talks about the idea that he wants to be able to fulfill the law, he also says that he is the law. So, how can he fulfill the law? How can he be the law and not fulfill the law?
I don't think that when he uses the word fulfill, that he's even referring to the law. I think he's using the word fulfill to refer to like the prophecies, because like prophecies are things you can fulfill. Laws are things that you follow, or like decree. You can break a law, but to me, I don't understand like what the word fulfill means like in regards to a law. So like let me see if I can find.
The only way I can think of it as, Benny, is when a cop pulls over someone who has been speeding and isn't wearing a seatbelt, and then they give them a ticket or maybe arrest them because, drunk and disorderly or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When they've upheld that law, they've fulfilled that law in that day. But just because you fulfill a law does not mean the law goes away. That's where they get it confused with abolish. And it says right in the text, I didn't come to abolish, but to fulfill. It's because Jesus was trying, you can see it in other passages when he's talking to the Pharisees, he was trying to get them to follow the law. He was pointing out the hypocrisy in them because they weren't following the law. He said, until heaven and earth have passed away, not one jot, not one letter, tittle of the laws to change. And so
Tittle.
to fulfill the law, yeah, a tittle is like this little Hebrew, it's almost like a comma, kind of.
Yeah,
But
like a dot,
yeah,
or yeah, I get what you mean, like a comma.
yeah,
Yeah, I get what you're
um,
saying.
yeah. So apostrophe, not a comma, sorry. But so when he says, "I've come to fulfill,"
Mhm.
what he's saying is, "I've come to bring back the law because y'all aren't following it."
There we go. Gosh, like I'm having like technical difficulties here. I was trying to pull it up. So, here is the passage. I don't know if you guys can read it that well. It says, "Do not think that I've come to abolish," and then like in capital letters here, and this is from the NRS VUE, the law or the prophets. So like the way that I look at it is not abolish the law, like the books of the law or the prophets. I've come not to abolish but to fulfill. So like to me, I would say like fulfill would be in regards to like the prophecies of the prophets, and abolishing would be whether or not like he is come to abolish those laws or not. But perhaps you're right, like fulfill, I guess in this sense, means just like exactly what you just said with the seatbelt, like you are sort of following it. To me, the syntax of that just doesn't make much sense. Like fulfill to me means like a prophecy, like you fulfill, or you could be I'm trying to even think of any other way to word that. But either way, so crosshop, Jesus is referring to the Old Testament in the New Testament. So how do you like square that away?
So this is just my understanding of it. So it's not actually, I'm not referencing the Bible. I'm just trying to understand the best I can with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in regards to the slavery idea, so what I've heard and what I kind of understand as well is, I'll use an example. If someone borrows food from somebody else and that person then doesn't pay them back, or let's say that you pay somebody, you pay part of somebody's rent, but
Mm-hmm.
then they cannot pay you back, and then you get them to let's say do you a favor by you know doing some dishes or helping out cleaning around the house or something. If it
So
is
that would be like
presented,
indentured servitude. Is that what you're like saying? Like,
can
so
you
like
remind me
paying
what that
like
word means?
so like paying a debt, like So indentured servitude is like you owe somebody money, right? And you could like pay it off through work.
Yes.
Okay, but that's not what they're referring to in Leviticus. In Leviticus, they're saying there's actually a distinction that is what can be done with your fellow Hebrews, but not from like the people that are taken from the nations around you, or the aliens or sojourners that are in your like lands. So let me see if somebody actually brought up though to look at the Hebrew and Greek. I don't know if I can on this website.
So I know one thing that I would like to try to share real quick,
Sure.
which this is what I'm kind of reminding of is so I know that in America here we kind of know that when it comes to immigrants, they've had times where they've actually gotten paid a lot less or even just less in general than standard Americans. And my brain is starting to think too, what if they did the exact same thing back then? Because
Well,
because they were foreign, they were able to underpay them what they should have
there's
actually
no
paid them
so
instead.
there's no pay. The only paying would be like to the people they're buying these slaves from, right? So like here, like we'll go over it again. Like as for the male and female slaves from whom you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire the male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you and from their families who are with you and have been born in your land. They may be your property. It says you may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. These you may treat as slaves, but as for your fellow Israelites, no one shall rule over them with harshness. And I think, like, even if we go back a little bit to like 40, was it 41 through? You shall not rule over them with harshness. As for the male, yeah. So it's just once again like saying that if they were the Israelites, then yeah, like, and it's also laid out in I think Exodus that like Israelites can be used to pay off a debt. That's where like the whole uh oh, what's that term, Nick? I can't think of that term.
Indentured servitude.
No, the seven after 7 years they can go free.
Oh, oh no,
Yeah, I'm
the
blanking.
oh crap, Jubilee. Jubilee?
Jubilee, or
Was it
yeah, okay.
Jubilee?
I
Something like that.
it's
But
been
the
a bit, yeah,
women
but yeah,
couldn't
like
though.
so in the seventh year, like an Israelite is allowed to be freed of their debts after working 7 years, like if they don't have their debts paid. That's not what they're talking about here in like Leviticus, like when it in those verses 44 through 46, they're saying like you could do this with the people from the nations around you, treat them as property, but as far as like your fellow Hebrews or Israelites, don't be so harsh.
But the women couldn't be let go free though. Only the men, not the women.
Yeah, the women and the children, even with your fellow Israelites, the women and children are still your property.
Their
I believe
property
that's
for
in
life.
Exodus 21. So
So then
yeah, it's
my question in
it's
regards
kind
to
of like
that then
bad
is,
to teach in schools. That's kind of like where I'm at.
And
my
then
question
Ephesians. Oh, sorry.
you're good. I was going to ask real quick. So in regards to that, then you said women and children will continue staying their slaves.
Yeah.
Correct. Because women were property. They weren't considered equal to men. They first belonged to their fathers, then they belonged to their husbands.
Okay, so then my question in regards to that then is, once those, let's say once the boys become men and they hit 18 years old, are they then no longer considered property?
Yeah, they're still considered property. If you're born a slave, you will always be a slave.
Okay, then that runs into the issue is that, the men before were considered free. They had children with their wives, their kids also became property. The parents died, and the kids still remained property. And then it
Yes.
continues on.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Because essentially what the owners were doing was breeding more slaves. That's essentially what they were doing. So if they had someone who was under them through indentured servitude, they could give the man a wife. Now this is the catch-22. After the 7 years, he could walk away, but he would have to leave his wife and any children that they had together behind, or he would submit and make himself a full-time, lifelong slave.
Scott says friction can
And
be used in reading comprehension. Sorry, I'm being ADHD kid. So yeah, agreed with Nick there. Like once they become of age, then they're no longer considered like a child.
they're just a full-time slave. And I did want to mention previously Ephesians 6:5-9 and 1 Peter 2:18, which is New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them double down on slavery and telling these slaves to obey thy earthly masters.
Oh, right, yeah.
So Jesus never abolished slavery.
Be subject to
In
your
fact,
masters
slavery continued after he unalived
with
because it
understanding.
was a normal part of their society.
Not only to those who are good and gentle, but also those who are dishonest. You still should be subject to your masters. So yeah, Jesus is not really like going against that. So I mean, cross-hop, you have the ability to say maybe this shouldn't be taught in schools. Do you still think that God should be taught in schools like this, or do you think these are good morals to teach kids?
I mean, have we learned from our past?
No.
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
sorry.
I mean, when it comes to America, I mean, we've abolished slavery in America.
Well, America didn't abolish slavery. What it did was outsourced it. So we buy in North America a lot of goods and services that come from countries where the products are being made by slave labor.
Yeah. So
So
like,
they got smart about it, but we still rely on slavery for pretty much everything we use, right down to our coffee in the mornings and the phones we're using right now.
in the Constitution, also like the 13th Amendment, it does have a little bit carved out of there, saying that slavery can be used as a punishment. So it is very much still legal, as it is according to the Constitution, to allow like prisoners to be treated like slaves. So basically, using their labor for free, which we do see a lot actually. Like I used to work at a jail, and I used to have to like make the payments to the trustees, and like it wasn't always necessarily that they would have to be paid. Some of it was volunteer, but they would pay them, but it'd be like pennies on the dollar. Like you maybe would make $3 out of an 8-hour shift. So I would say that slavery is still very much in some form, around.
I would agree with you there, yeah. Most of it's outside the U.S., but yeah, I mean, I definitely know that it is around. It's just not something that we see as Americans on a normal everyday.
I mean, that's kind of just that kind of goes back to the education system, though, and the lack of information that's being put out there. If people knew about how slave labor is being used today, in regards to our normal everyday society, then it would be seen a lot more. But they don't tell people about this because it's shady and people don't want to know they're still using slave labor to run the country and make the world go round.
Yeah.
Now,
So
I just have one more.
sure.
I just have
Yeah.
one
I was
question
gonna
I was
say
going to
I
ask
was
real
gonna
quick.
move on to Abby here, but yeah, go on. What's your one more question?
Sorry. So, in regards to I guess the religious side or the Christian side of it, uh, aside from, so Christians obviously believe in a God who's always been and who always will be.
Mm-hmm.
But how is it that everybody hates that one God who's has been and always will be, and yet all these other gods that they've had since then or since whenever has always been created. You know, only the Christians believe in an eternal God, where other people believe in a God that was made, who has.
Well,
I guess it
that's
would
not
depend on,
accurate.
I'm not sure which religion is talking about a god that's like made. Some
I
are
mean, Buddha
unmade
was
or
made.
who?
Buddha was made.
I mean, Buddha's not actually a god, though. I mean, society kind of views him as one, but he's not actually a god.
Yeah, Buddha was born, like it was a human.
And a
But
really scrawny one.
uh, I mean, I don't know really like how to respond to that. Like there's atheist Buddhists, so like the like concept is kind of one that I don't know really want to like delve into too much. So I would say that like for most religions, like especially Abrahamic, they don't think that God was like made. He's eternal, and like so like the Muslims and like the Hindus, like those are all eternally. Even the Greek, like Hellenistic religions, those are all eternal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to know though, and I'll definitely continue trying to expand on my understanding of God and
Cool. All right.
go
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up, Cross Up. I really do. So you have a good day, and we'll have to see you again another time. Abby, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
All right, Abby. Can I get your age real quick, just for terms of services purposes?
I'm 18.
All right. So, should God be taught in schools?
Personally, anytime I've ever gone to church, so I don't know if I believe in God. I'll just fit that out. Like, I
Okay.
could be yes, I could be no. But anytime I've gone to church, it's just God is love, acceptance, just love thy neighbor. Personally, I don't think God should be taught in schools, but the idea of being kind and loving everybody, like, which is what you learn in church, essentially, when you go on Sunday to a hearing, and hear a preacher. So I do believe that God should be, if it's a Christian school, if it's a school that's labeled, but we shouldn't be putting, if
Like
the parents'
I mean like all
kids don't,
schools, I guess. Like basically, should we
no,
be
because
teaching
if
our
the
kids about Jesus and what have you? Oh, Jesus is being
if we
trippy.
teach God as a symbol of love and a figure of togetherness instead of one man who, or essentially what Christians say.
So you're saying like more of a instead of like a religious teaching, more of like a just treat others kindly type of
Yes,
like
but if
idea?
it were to be, yes, if it were to Christianity were to be taught in schools, because I mean we do say in individual under God every day. So if it could be tied into schools, I feel like it should not be about Christianity's teaching, like the morals of it. I feel like it should
So more
just
of like
be
a deistic, just
a
like
lesson, yeah.
overall. I still I think I disagree with that. I even think that the Pledge of Allegiance is kind of like messed up that they say that.
Yeah, I won't say it in school.
Well, Abby, I got somebody else in the box here. You and I kind of agree overall. I'm trying to look for
Okay.
opposition. So I do appreciate you coming up. I might be changing up the subject here. So if you don't agree with that, feel free to come back up, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
you too. Universe of Profit. Are you there?
Yes. Hey, how's it going?
It's going.
Can you hear me?
It's going. Yeah, I can hear you. Can I get your age just real quick for TikTok purposes?
39.
39. All right. Should God be taught in schools?
Yes, sir. I think in a non-religious aspect, but like more of like, hey, this is a habitable world. These all the trajectories of like the solar bodies, as well as like internally, the way your liver works, the way all these systems work in the body. there is a authority here and is observing us, but outside of scripture or anything like that.
Mm.
But like look at it through a
Would you be
scientific lens.
okay, so like would you be open to the possibility of it not also being that? Like it could just, be pointless, right? Like it could have just been, you know, particles that arranged in a certain way. Like
That's kind of hard I mean, everybody has the right to their belief in this country. That's kind of hard for me to believe that particles. I think the particles were like orchestrated to fall a certain way because your system's eyesight, the way the human the body works, the way the way the celestial bodies working. I think they had to have been directed. I mean, without even touching any like type of scripture or anything like that, just based on observation. Yeah, that's just my opinion. I mean, there's too much. There's too much like structure for me to think that it could just come together, without intervention of some kind of higher power sorting agent.
So the reason why I bring up like particles arranging, and this is kind of more of like just my own personal belief, and like chaos theory as it is. So like when you imagine like a static screen on a TV, you remember like the fuzzy screens, like when you
Mm-hmm.
not have a good signal. Uh,
Yeah,
so
the white noise type
right, like
visual.
now like with new TVs, of course, they have like these little pixels that rearrange and can kind of do the same thing. It would be like static if you consider those pixels particles. Now, for the most part, if you were to randomly arrange these pixels, it's going to look like a mess, right? It's just going to look like static. But if you give it enough time, sooner or later, if those particles are really randomly arranging, they will make like every single, like they will make this exact background. It may be only for a millisecond, but it could be for like an hour, and then like finally one
Yeah.
pixel changes. So, it is possible, if you think about it, that the particles, if they are just rearranging, that we could just be in a moment of order.
Yeah, especially for infinity. They had that same theory that like basically the same thing. If you put an apple in a box, and if you the span of infinity, that apple, the molecules will
Right.
rearrange and create every single book,
Right.
every single organism that ever existed on Earth. Because that's infinity gives you that much time to actually
Right. And I, like
wait for it
personally,
to actually reassemble.
personally, like with physics, the way that we model it, it's based off of an infinite universe. So I would say that just the possibility, like I think that personally, it would be fine to teach like God in schools as long as you teach that maybe God doesn't also exist, and the kind of
Hmm.
like the things that support each side. Like
Yeah, so the
you got to
next
be
thing
fair
would be
about
the
it, right?
consciousness. Where do we get the consciousness from? Where
I
do we
mean, it
get
could be
the
derivative
consciousness
of
is like
evolution, and
yeah, but like it's so weird like the mind and then like your eyesight transmits
right,
lights and transcribes them what a cell phone does with the camera on a phone, but instead it plugs it into your brain and then everything else in your body like and then you're a conscious being like I don't know how that fits into infinity, but into the infinity theory, but that's kind of the thing. Like, there has to be like something that is like,
that's
anointing
designed
us
under.
as
Okay,
these high
I
functioning
get what you're
beings.
saying.
Yeah, these in
Like that's
the
why they call it,
consciousness side.
and that's why they call it the hard problem of consciousness, right? And that's a tough one. Like personally, I would just say that consciousness seems to be derivative of the like organic life, and how like life has evolved over billions of years. So and at one point, maybe life didn't exist or it existed somewhere else. but that's just part of these particles, arranging and rearranging. And like
Yeah,
sometimes,
and there's other stuff too on the body. I would say, like your I guess the 10 toes, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and then maybe like the way the moon and the earth kind of makes like a clock almost, and the sun, it's almost like a clock. And there's these structures there, and then you pair that up with what is mathematical on us, and then you're like, wait a minute, this looks like something else. This looks like we're in a giant clock, and then we're high functioning. We
yeah,
can
like
count
like
to
a
10. We have
clockwork
10 toes.
universe.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but
It's
see,
just
like
weird to me. Like,
that's what quantum mechanics kind of like overturned. Like before, we used to have like what they would call a clockwork universe, where they believed that they could like basically mathematically chart out what the universe was going to do in the future. But now, after the revelation of quantum mechanics, things are not quite so certain or rigid, and that's kind of where like chaos theory comes into play. There's a book about chaos that I have around here somewhere. It's actually just called like Chaos Creating like a Whole New like Science or something like that, and it goes into that pretty deeply. It's quite interesting. I think that like your example of the apple, like inside of a box, if you give it enough time, like an infinite amount of time, that it will rot. Like as according to how we would know it, and then sooner or later, it would turn into like a goo or dust, and then those particles would just keep rearranging, from this like uncertain mechanic of quantum mechanics, and then that's when we would start to see the particles rearranged to like a mini Eiffel Tower, like inside of this box.
yeah, and every item, every like thing that ever existed through infinity could rearrange itself because that's how long infinity is.
Right. So I'm not too sure if we like really disagree. So like I think that sure, like teaching God like as a general idea, like in like a philosophy class, is fine, as long as you're not teaching the kids like this is definitely the answer. Like you could teach like, oh, these are arguments for God and these are arguments against God. Would you agree with that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess
Sure.
you definitely have to, keep the playing field balanced. But this, like I said, this wouldn't be like your God, like, oh, this is wrong or right. This is a God, like,
Like a general like
it
prime
appears
mover.
as if something is intervened, and and there's like when you're looking at the distance between the sun and the moon, and the moon from the earth and the size of the moon, and then the distance from the sun and the earth, and the moon like falls right on top of the sun like a keyhole. um and there's like your begs a question, like, are we supposed to be looking at like
But
what's
the
going
moon,
on out there with
it's not quite like a keyhole though. There's actually like what they call a corona.
probably some space?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That you would actually
but they're
notice.
close, you know what I mean, like they're close, and
Yeah,
it's like, am I supposed
but
to
it's not
interpret
like
that as like,
perfect.
yeah, of course not perfect, but
All right. Well,
can we interpret that and be worried?
mm, I think that would be up for debate, and I think that that would be where like something that you could maybe have in the school. But universal profit, I think we've kind of ran the course of this discussion. I do want to move on to the next guest. I do appreciate you coming in, and yeah, I might have a new topic here, so. If you do see a new topic come up, feel free to join back in.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Nice conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Deuce Volt, 777. Can I get your age real quick?
32.
All right. So, my question here is, should God be taught in schools? And I'm kind of like trying to like lean more into the political aspect of it all. Like kind of the idea of like how they're putting like Bible study in schools, and like forcing kids to like have Bibles and things like that, like in Oklahoma and other states. So what's your take on it all?
I mean, I think it's uh, in order to have a well-rounded education, I think the idea of God is one of is fundamental because if you think about education, education without a purpose that is I don't want to say divine, but that has a metaphysical reality, is always going to be a better education as opposed to one that just exists to meet certain ends, like like just making money, for example, or just being intelligent, or
So you're
you know,
saying like there should
there
be a
has to
purpose to the education that children are receiving?
correct, yeah, yeah, that's not made just to fulfill an end, but has some sort of like metaphysical reality.
Okay.
And I think
Can you
you can't have that without the you know, the concept of God.
okay. Metaphysical I think is an interesting word. Metaphysical reality. So like metaphysical means that like I'm more of like a physicalist. So like reality to me is completely physical. To be metaphysical would mean that's beyond like what is real. Would you agree or
Right,
disagree?
exactly. Yeah, like virtue would be one of those things.
Yeah, so I
Virtue
would
would
say
be
like
a metaphysical
virtue
reality.
is like a socially like created construct, right? Like it's something that is not quite universal. Like to be virtuous in one person's eyes could be, you know, to strive for helping others, whereas to be virtuous to another could be like helping your boss or something. So like I don't think that we could like nail it down to like what is the objective like meaning of virtuous.
Right, but is there, would you say that one is lesser than the other in terms of, you know, how we categorize virtue? Like if you're just being virtuous just to appeal to your dad, I would say that's a lesser form of virtue than someone who's
Well,
virtuous to try to serve,
who's
for the
deciding
service of
whether or
others.
not like appealing to your father or appealing to your neighbor is more important?
Well, that's what I'm saying. In order to maintain a hierarchy of order, you need ideas like God. So if there's a hierarchy for education, like if education is not just self-serving,
Uh-huh.
if it's actually supposed to, you know, transition the adolescent mind to an adult mind that takes on certain responsibilities that are outside of himself or herself, then you need to discuss virtue, and that virtue needs to have a hierarchy. And in order to maintain that hierarchy, you need the concept of God.
So what if you like so I've never been a believer really. You know, like I've never as a like a child, you know, I guess I was up for, you know, the possibility, but at the age around like 6 to 8, I was like, nah, this is all kind of like BS. I'm just gonna go with science and, you know, like education in general. So I've never really had a concept of like what a god even is. Uh, but I would say that I'm educated. I hold a multiple degrees, one in history and another in public administration, actually. So I guess I don't. I would be like living proof of like that not being true.
Uh, no, not necessarily. It depends on how you view your education. Do you think your education just serves those aspects of your life, or do you think your education serves a transcendent purpose? And if you say that it has no transcendent purpose, then okay, that's fine. But education that does have a transcendent purpose, to me, that's more valuable.
Okay, and what would like determine that value?
The concept of God. That would be the determining factor. So you can't have an education that has a transcendent value without discussing God.
Well, yeah, like
So
so
you
I
take
would say
God out of the picture, then
transcendence. I would just say that transcendence, just don't exist, right? Like they're again human constructs, things like uh virtue or morals, transcendence, like the idea of like good or bad, aren't necessarily like written down anywhere that we could like put under a microscope. um so like these are only things that would require a mind. I would say that they're like not stance independent as compared to something like reality in itself, like the existence of like this shirt, like the shirt is made up of physical particles and stuff. It's not due to my mind. Like my mind is not making the shirt exist for everybody else to see. Cedar, did
yeah,
you
I mean
did
you
you
can
have
have.
something that you wanted to add in real quick? Are you there? Hello?
As a uni student, like, okay, never mind the fact that I'm going for biblical scholarship here. However, I don't worship a specific God. I'm just a huge history nerd, especially when it comes to religions, but I don't feel like I need any kind of transcendence. I don't need any type of God for my education to be worth something, not only to myself, but to the world and to humanity. That is my thing. I serve humanity. I don't serve a God. And I feel that humanity is better off serving each other, helping each other, educating each other, than giving whatever glory and education or this and that to a God that isn't pure. I'm very human focused because um, we are, in my view, humans are far more important than a God is, because it's humans that are suffering, it's humans that are starving,
Right.
humans that are in slavery, it's humans that are being denied basic needs like water, food, healthcare. I serve humanity. I don't need transcendence in my education to do better or be better.
Yeah, but you just. So I guess if I can ask you, can I ask you a question?
Let's
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So do you
If it's okay with
serve?
Benny.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So So do you serve humanity because do you serve humanity because it's something that you desire, or do you or is or is serving humanity something that's good in itself alone?
It's something that's good in itself alone.
Okay,
We need
so
to
if you
do
just
better in taking care of our people.
right, so so how can you ground that statement if you don't
Uh,
discuss God?
because I see suffering in the world, and suffering is something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
There
you can.
requires no God to see that.
Yeah, like there's the
But
ability
we've
to.
had plenty of societies who haven't centered their civilization on mitigating suffering and have operated just well. If you if you take into consideration certain factors, they've been able to flourish, right? If you look at, for example, China. China doesn't necessarily worry about the suffering of its inhabitants. It more so worries about its own agenda, and from the world's perspective, it's been able to operate just fine. So why
Yeah,
why would
I
why
can
would
make. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so like why would we choose to live under the idea that serving humanity is the best way to go about living, if you don't discuss God? Like, how else do you ground it? Just saying that suffering exists is not. I mean, that's. I would say that's a fact, but how people interact with that suffering, varies. You don't necessarily have to empathize with suffering. You kind of need a reason, and that reason needs to be grounded in some sort of
Right.
reality that's
Yeah.
not contingent on someone's opinion.
Absolutely. My reasoning is because I don't want to see children starving anymore. I don't want to see children going without food, without water, without basic necessities anymore. I don't want to see children unaliving to stupid diseases because of lack of funding anymore. That is what I ground that in. Again, God is not in the picture for those goals for me. And on top of that, everything you just said about China, I can actually say for the United States of America, where they are currently cutting off funding for school lunch programs, and they're cutting off funding for medical aid, and they're cutting off this, that, and making people suffer even more. And these are people who claim to be a Christian nation. So everything that you just said about China, I can equally say about a country that is quotation mark led by this God.
Wait,
Would you say there's
when did
something?
China
Would
get
you say
into
there
this?
was well, because she said that serving humanity is a good in itself. And then I asked her, how do you ground that? And she said, because suffering exists, and I wouldn't want to see anyone suffering, because it doesn't lead to flourishment. But
Yeah,
there are certain societies and civilizations that have seen suffering and have ignored it, or have oppressed it, and have manipulated it, and they were still able to flourish. So why choose the perspective that it's better to serve humanity than to not serve humanity? There needs to be a mediator, at least from my perspective, that externally tells us that it is better to serve humanity, and when we don't, we
actually,
go in a
no. So no, there doesn't have to be.
Vinny.
I can see a homeless person on the side of the road, huddled up under a blanket because it's currently freezing where I am, right? And I could just want to go grab him a hot coffee and a blanket. God didn't drive me to do that. My seeing a need for someone pleading for help is what drove me. I don't need a God to tell me to do the right thing. I don't need a God to dictate to help somebody.
Thanks, Dan.
Can I ask a clarifying question here? I've been listening for a bit. Can I ask you
First,
just a
can
clarifying question?
yeah, can I just get your age just to like validate?
Oh, sorry,
anything?
46.
Yeah, okay. Go on, sure.
I mean, are schools government institutions?
I would say yes.
So then that the First Amendment dictates Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That is the establishment clause of the First Amendment with regard to any government organization.
Right.
So to teach any official establishment of a religion of any kind in a public school would be contradicting the First Amendment.
I would agree with that. I would say it's
So
unconstitutional. But beyond that is kind of the is where the conversation has gone.
oh, so just ignore the Constitution and
Well,
argue
just-
as if it doesn't exist?
I'm just saying I'm trying to get like, where people's idea like beyond this constitutional legalistic term.
Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli, one of the first international actions the the fledgling nation did after the Revolutionary War. John Adams, our second president, signed a contract with the nation of Tripoli, establishing that the U.S. is not nor ever will be a Christian nation. In a contract signed by a founding father, both the signator of the signator of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution itself. If that's not a founding father, I don't know what is.
Okay, so I don't think I like disagree with you at all. So I don't know like why you came up.
Well, I guess the question being like, what is the benefit of teaching God in school?
Pivot,
if the argument,
you understand, like this conversation was going off of like morality and like suffering that they were having.
But morality has existed and can exist outside of a deity.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
that
I'm not sure. Like, you just kind of came up, dude, and you like took over the whole conversation. Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, I think he's missing the implication that this kind of discussion is geared more toward the state and local levels of things like implementing the display of the Ten Commandments in schoolrooms, etc.
Yeah, like I agree
I think that was
that it's
missed.
unconstitutional to like federally not, like, but yeah, on a state rights level, we're already seeing this in Texas, in Oklahoma. Data, you came in and you like completely just like pivoted the whole conversation like into like what you wanted to talk about. And like you interrupted Nick and Deuce Volt from like continuing their conversation that they were having. So I don't know, Nick and Deuce, do you want to continue that conversation? Deuce, I see your teacup there.
I just feel truly if God was truly in the schools already, and I just think it's so weird that they're doing this mad push to put God in schools, but they're also doing this mad push to cut off lunch funding. It's a wild concept to me. If they truly wanted God in the schools, they would show God through action, through lunch programs, even food donation programs, maybe having food pantries right at the schools where they can send kids home with dinners. So, they're not the only ones eating during the day where they can take care of the families as well. Full funding for teachers because I know the teachers aren't faring off so well in the United States. They have to pay for most of their supplies out of pocket,
It's
which
true.
is just absolutely wild to me. With full funding for all of it. I mean, this is why I cringe when Christians say it's through faith, not by works. No, it should be by works. If you truly want God in the schools, then show it. Don't just force the Bible and the Ten Commandments down their throats because that does nothing.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't see any like problems there. What's your thoughts on that? Deuce, are you still there? Sorry about that. I know like data came in and kind of hijacked the whole conversation, so I do apologize for that like interruption of thought. I'm not sure if Deuce is
Hit
still
me
there.
like a wrecking ball.
Deuce, are you there? All right. Well, I'm gonna let him go. Uh, yeah. Like data. I understand what you're saying, and I understand that like the establishment clause is there, and I get all that, but that that hasn't changed how things are happening in like Texas and Oklahoma and even North Dakota. They are at a state level trying to work these things in. So like unless you are trying to like sue these states like on a higher court, I don't understand. Like we're already hijacked as far as a Congress goes, um, and they're not really like doing much to it. Which why I would say like people that are not happy with the current situation, to just vote out whoever's in office, whoever it is. Honestly, just vote for somebody
Honestly,
else.
I could make the argument to put my God into schools and put like someone like Stolas into schools because they are the gods of knowledge and wisdom.
I mean, yeah,
Just say,
I'm fine with like
just say,
teaching all of it. Like a world
yeah.
religions class is completely fine to me. Like I don't see where like that would be like a bad thing. Uh
You want smarter kids? Let's put Odin into the schools. Let's go.
right. All right. Tio, are you there?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Can I get your age just real quick?
Yeah, 22.
All right. And what's your take on all of this?
What's your take?
Um, I just think that I think the idea of, about God being taught, I think it should be like a separate class. Um, I think people should be open to the idea of a creator as much as they should be to the idea of evolution. I see no problem.
Oh, okay. Well, now, so you're saying that since they teach evolution in school, that they should also teach the like possibility of like a God, even though there's like no evidence
It's like
of that
no.
God. Um, and there is evidence of evolution.
No, okay. So the thing about God is that even scientists or proponents of like, science and stuff like that, they also believe that there's plausible evidence for a sentient creator. So I wouldn't sit here and say that.
Hmm. I
I
see. Okay.
wouldn't, yeah, I don't think that's fair.
Sure. Would you say it would be fair then to like maybe like in a philosophy class? like you would put forward like the arguments for a god,
Yeah,
and
I
then the
think that's
arguments like
fair.
against.
I think it would be fair that you could at least teach the idea. I don't think that you had to have like a Bible school. I know there's already schools for that type of subject, but across America we should have both evolutionism or Darwinism, and we should also have creationism. That's my view.
Mm,
Why?
yeah, why?
Because as you agreed, I think that it's a philosophical take. Every philosophical take is taught, even communism, socialism, capitalism,
Okay, so you're
all
saying
these
just
things.
teach them all,
So
teach them everything.
those aren't philosophies.
No, they
Those
are all
are
taught.
economic.
Right,
Those
yeah.
are economic. Yeah, that's not philosophy. That's economics. That's economic theory.
Yeah, like Marxism and
And to
socialism
teach
and
every
capitalism.
possible philosophy in existence would take more than probably 4 years. It would take at least 6 years.
It's not about just teaching it. Like I myself have learned about these subjects, but they weren't like necessarily separate classes. They were just, I guess, information takes. I don't believe that creationism should be denied in schools. That's not really a thing that you should uphold.
But why?
Because the same standards you uphold to deny creationism, you'd also have to do to evolution, because you can't even really prove evolution necessarily.
We
So
can though.
the difference here is you're arguing from philosophical reasoning versus empirical evidence. We have
Right.
empirical evidence to support evolution. The only thing we have to prove a possibility of there being a creator is philosophical reasoning. Again, if you want to understand philosophical reasoning, though, you would have to take a long time to understand Pyrrhonian skepticism, materialism, physicalism, Madhyamaka, Yogacara. You'd have to understand the plethora of philosophies to understand that.
Okay,
Right.
so
I
when
mean,
you're
like,
claiming that, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, in defense of Tio, maybe like just like a first step into these like larger philosophies. Is that kind of what you mean, or like, are you just saying like
No,
things should be more rounded, or are you saying that since evolution is just as plausible as you're trying to say evolution is just as plausible as like a creator?
yeah, no, I'm not saying that we should just teach something just because, but I see that in creationism and in Darwinism, we have like a lot of like similar bounds of like, understanding. I don't think it's just so easy to claim that we shouldn't teach these things. We have a lot of things that we know about in regards to whether or not the universe existed, how it was created, and it's not fair to assume that one point is more greater than the other, because we would, if that's true, if that's your thought of logic, then we could say that fascism is greater than capitalism, or I guess slavery is better than being free. It's
Whoa.
not fair.
So based in psychology, that would all be refuted. The only thing that would support those two instances would be specifically the Christian religion.
It doesn't take religion to at least prove that no one should be bound. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to state.
Slavery is supported by the Bible.
No, the reason why slavery would even existed is because there are variants of the Bible that could not stay on its own because it would refute what they did. That's why there's slave Bibles, not Bibles that supported slavery, just slave Bibles. They took out Exodus, they took out the story of Moses because
The
you have this.
original
Yeah.
Torah supports
Yeah.
slavery. It gives
No.
prescriptions on how to deal with slaves, how to treat them, when to free them, etc.
Okay, so wait. Are you talking about the slave trade or just basic slavery?
Slavery.
I'm talking
like
about
chattel slavery.
chattel slavery.
Oh no, there's no such no chattel slavery in the Bible. That doesn't exist. It's social economic slavery. Just because like you're born poor and you like need it, that's not
That is
chattel slavery.
not every rabbi would refute you on that.
No, they don't. If they refute me on this, then that would like actually hurt them.
So
Right?
I'll
they're
bring up
they're
Leviticus.
extremely.
So here we go.
No rabbis ever explained that.
So
If
hold
like,
on.
okay.
So rabbis are extremely intellectually honest when it comes to their religion and to the history of their people.
No, they're
They
not.
will straight up tell you that yes, back then they did own slaves. Yes, back then it was chattel slavery. The only time you really saw the concept of indentured servitude was with their own people, but the Bible is very specific. It says, um, as for your male and female slaves, you take them from other nations, and they are to be your slaves, and you can pass them down to your children as well. That is chattel slavery, and they are very intellectually honest about that.
Yeah, like
So
I
this is
got it
from
up on the
Exodus,
screen
correct?
right here.
You're using Exodus 44 through 47, I suppose?
No, this is Leviticus chapter
Oh,
25, 44
okay.
through 46. So Leviticus is, like a series of laws that, they kind of jump around a little bit. There's, like laws on how to make a correct sacrifice. There's ways to like clean yourself and your house. There's also, prescriptions on how to keep slaves.
Okay, so yeah, the thing about this, right, in the context of there being foreigners, like, from the nations of the Canaanites and whatnot, these are like mostly like refugees who took up slavery. That's literally what happens in the entire context of Leviticus.
Slavery is not taken up,
Yes, it
and
is.
that
There's no slave trade.
no. The word is aved. It means
No, it's not.
slave.
Yeah,
It is.
that's
The word is
Hebrew.
aved. It means slave.
It's the Hebrew word for slave.
In Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, in biblical Hebrew. And you do not, if you take up something, you are not a slave. If you opt into something, you are not a slave. By
If
definition, that's not how slave, that word works.
okay, so if it was truly right slavery in that term, because the Hebrew word for property is azusa, right? Which is just like a legal, it's like a legal contractual thing. There would be no contract on something that is upheld for like, lifetime and generations. Okay?
There is
And
no
the same
contract
wait,
because
hold
they're
on, hold on.
slaves.
Because you're making the argument that these foreign servants are not protected by any means, when Deuteronomy 23 actually shows that if you mistreat them, they could walk away and they could leave.
That's your fellow his like Israelites.
No,
right?
no, no, that's anyone.
No.
Every slave
fellow
under the nation
Israelite.
of Israel.
So
This
like
is in the context of the Israelites. Yes, I
So, are
agree.
you forgetting the part where they get up in a couple of days after you beat the ever living crap out of them? There's going to be no punishment. Do you forget about
Okay,
that,
yeah.
Wilbur?
Yeah, I understand where if you kill them, like, sorry, unalive, right? The death penalty, whatever. That argument is very vague because it's not really explaining that you could beat them, right? And it's also telling you if you harm them, you lose them, right?
Only if they lose an eye or what was the other
tooth.
one, Benny? It was only if you lose an eye or a tooth. But other than that, you could beat the ever living crap out of them, and as long as they get up in a 2-day period, A, they remain your slave, and B, there's no punishment to you.
Okay, so this is good that you're bringing it up, and I think you're using Exodus because these slaves, right? In that same context, they're running away. So you have terms for this, what you can do to them and what you can't. Now they're running away, which is the problem because these are indentured servitudes. They took up this. If you're running away from a contract, there's a
Indentured
legal punishment.
servants are like dude something. So like
Yes.
these like the slaves in Leviticus here from the nations around you, the Aved, that the word that they use in this specific verse is referred to like as property. Like
Mm.
you own them like as property. You can bequeath them to your children, and with such, that would mean that like they have no autonomy. They are not owed anything. You don't owe your chair anything. You don't owe
Ooh.
your table anything, right? So like
Yeah,
why
okay.
why would you consider them property and then say that they're indentured servants who are these like debt
Well,
servants,
okay.
which I can
Yeah.
understand,
So
like as your Israelites, like your fellow Israelites, this says don't rule over them with harshness, but that would be a different type of a distinguished, like bond servant or like you know, whatever you want to call it, indentured servant there, like an employee
Mhm.
of some sort.
So the whole thing about the Israelites, basically, I guess, if in your interpretation of them being held in, whether it is marriage or like contracts, the women being held to marriage, these are all like protection clauses because an Israelite or just a citizen of that nation, its duration of existence. If you're married, you have protection under the law. The Torah applies to you because you're just married, right? So the whole thing about them being held, right, as property and being held under their house, under the master's house, is for protection. Because if you let those slaves go after whatever time, and they just, they have no master, they have no one, they can't be protected. And that's the whole point of what the Israelites are trying to do. Now, the thing about them being indentured, I guess, is that there isn't like a forever time because there's something called the year of Jubilee. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, and that's in regards to like your fellow Hebrews or
No,
Israelites.
it Leviticus 25 verse 10 states that you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. That means
It
the
says,
foreigners
"And
too.
you shall hallow the 50th year, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land and all of its inhabitants." What do you mean? What
Yeah.
do you think they mean by like throughout the land and
So
all of its
okay, so
inhabitants?
yeah,
It shall be
by
jubilee
this
for
text
you.
alone.
Go on.
Mm, okay, so yeah, this verse is unavoidable, right? So to the slave contract, I guess if they're put for 50 years, then fine, but they're not held forever. No one can hold a slave forever because of the year of Jubilee.
But in 44 through 46, it does say, actually in this
Forever.
version, this is the NIV version, but oh no, that's the NRSV. Never mind. NRSV UE. I thought it did say forever in there. As for the
No,
males,
it does. It does. But if you look, if the Hebrew talks about forever in different contexts, like forever may be in the generation of the slave master, right? But the year of Jubilee is very, very consistent, very static. Like when they say "let them go," that is what it is, even if it means forever in the other sentence.
Well, if that be the case, then why can you pass them on to your children and your children's children then?
Okay,
right.
so the reason why you can pass them on is because not every generation, right, saw the year of Jubilee. Most people, passed away at very young ages. So the master might give his inheritance before the year of Jubilee because he may die.
Have you ever, do you know who Dr. Joshua Bowen is?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Dr. Joshua
Do you
Bowen.
know who Dr. Joshua Bowen, do you know who he is?
Oh, I'm not familiar with him.
He goes by the bow
Okay,
tie Bible
so,
guy sometimes on TikTok.
yeah,
Okay.
he's a major player in the scholarship field, and his main focus is on like ancient Near Eastern law codes, and he specifically wrote a whole book on slavery within the Old Testament. I would suggest you reading it.
I mean, I would.
It it goes into a lot of detail in the things that you're trying to argue
Yeah,
for,
I think it
including the women part.
right. And like this idea of property is kind of like I know that there's scholarship on this, like personhood, right? Like so the idea of like is a chair a person? Is a table a person? No, right? Like you would say no. Uh that is the same type of like property that they're referring to these slaves as. The slaves to them when it comes to these chattel slaves are not people, they're property. So they're akin to like shoes or a table or a chair. So they are not people. So like any kind of prescriptive uh like to your fellow man, to your, who inhabitants, like those aren't property. Those are actual humans that is being referred to when you're like considering Leviticus chapter 25. And that's how I mean, Dr. Josh has argued it before. Like that's how I've always understood it, is that you wouldn't, like allow these certain like things, like you wouldn't free a table, right? Or like after 50 years, you would free maybe an employee that owed you something, and like they've worked a long enough, like it's just a deadline. But like when it comes to property, like that's the biggest part here, is that and if they're being considered property, they have no personhood.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe their view on property is different because again, Israel was separated from the nations of the world in terms of morality, given that they have, their God Yahweh. So,
They
I
weren't.
mean,
They weren't.
they
They
were
weren't.
the whole Mosaic
Um,
law. Wait,
hold,
I'm
hold,
sorry. I understand what you're trying to compel, but the Mosaic law literally shows you that they're different from every single ancient Near East civilization of their
they
time.
weren't, because they got the majority of their laws from other ancient Near Eastern law codes. Prime example, the Code of Hammurabi. I mean, I'm literally currently studying that in school right now, and you wouldn't believe how many of the laws are absolutely bang on or similar.
Yeah.
That's they were going based off of other ancient Near Eastern law codes. Even their Ten Commandments, a huge portion of that was taken to from the 42 laws of Ma'at, which lines up because they said that Moses was raised in Egypt. So that's false. They weren't separated.
Yeah, Ma'at is
Oh,
spelled MA apostrophe AT, the 42 laws of Ma'at.
Yes, yes.
okay, so the thing about that, I mean, the Hammurabi's code, right, is very, very legalist, and it's not even that similar. Like, just because other civilizations might have taught,
I
love
would
one
say
another,
it's
yeah,
not
this is
even
what
as
we all believe.
harsh. Like
No, it
the
is. It
in
it
some of
is.
like Hammurabi's code, like if a child does not, like uh follow what their parents tell them, that child is not to be put to death like it is in the Bible or the Torah.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is actually like they should just be like shunned, or like disciplined.
okay, so wait.
And their indentured slavery was only 3 years, not 7.
Okay, wait. So, who do you believe that the Hammurabi's code protected more, the elite or the average citizen? Let's see.
Huh? So I would say
What?
like it's neither in a way. I would have to go through the whole code. Like I'm trying to think. There's the eye for an eye. Like if you steal something, they'll cut off your hand. I believe that's in Hammurabi's code. I'm trying to read
Hmm.
the 42 ideals of Ma'at here, but like it's clear that this is taken from earlier law codes. Is I think the
Okay.
the point that Nicholas is trying to make.
Yes.
Yeah, so again, it's not taken from that. The foundation of Hammurabi's code is class hierarchy. The Mosaic law is teaching that everyone is made in the image of God. That's not even a thought in most civilizations.
Only their people. Only their people. This has nothing to do with the
No,
other
wait, okay.
nations.
I'm sorry, but the idea that everyone is in the image of God is even for the Gentiles, okay? That's what the Jews have to uphold. You want to talk about rabbis? The rabbis have to admit this. That's
Okay,
literally Genesis.
so if that would be the point, if that were to be the case, then the whole entire Tanakh, they wouldn't have gone around genociding other nations if that were the truth. They wouldn't have been going around enslaving 32,000 virgins from another tribe and making them concubines, smeck slaves. Okay, if they were truly all equal, that stuff would not be happening. That is a false statement.
That's a false equivalence. That's not
It's
even
not a false
it
equivalence. If you
is.
say everyone is equal, including the Gentiles, the nations around them, then that would not be happening. You're the one who's making the false
Oh
statement.
wait, okay, wait. Let's just go back to whether or not they take the law from the other civilizations. The answer is no. Okay, and in the idea of eye for an eye, yeah. I mean, honestly, that is just one law. But the idea that
Well, there's
okay,
like
the Code of
adultery
Hammurabi.
in this like 42 ideals of Ma'at. Like they mention, to not commit adultery. Let's see. Who comest forth from thy cavern? I have made none to weep. There's a lot of not to attack any man. There's like don't
Mhm.
schmurder. Don't
Yep.
steal. Don't like be an eavesdropper on some of these. So like like coveting thy neighbor, things like that. So
Mhm.
it all seems to be in like at least in this the 42 ideals of Ma'at, which dates to ugh, a long time ago in Egyptian culture, like
Yeah,
almost
but you're
like
saying
3000 BCE, 2600 to 2100 BCE.
you're saying they took the law from them. And then the whole argument about chattel slavery. Okay, the code of Hammurabi or whatever his name is, he
Hammurabi.
Hammurabi
Hamburglers.
teaches. Yeah, he no okay. In Law 6 and I think Law 8, it teaches you that if people were to steal, right, they would have to pay 10 to 30 times back what they took or they were unalived. The Mosaic law doesn't teach that. It teaches paying back, right, restitution, but it doesn't teach the death penalty.
But
So what did they take back?
it's still the same though.
It's not
Right.
the
They're
A
same.
saying
It's not
there's
the same.
previous
the
hold
idea
on
is to not steal,
sorry, Benny.
right?
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Right. Yeah. Like no, yeah, and
Why can't that be the same? What does that prove
I
if,
mean,
if, if
so
it's the
they're saying the
same?
punishment is different, but like we were saying earlier, the punishment of like the child should be following like their parents. If a child doesn't follow their parents according to the Torah or the Bible, that child is to be stoned to death. But according to the Hammurabi code, the child is just punished, um,
Yeah.
disciplined, and not like with their life. So that the punishment is not as big of as like a deal as it is like the law that it's establishing, like to follow your parents as a child, or to not steal, or to not schmurder, or to not commit adultery. That's where they're
Yeah, I
these laws are shown that like you shouldn't commit adultery is something that predates the Torah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I think that's fair to assume it, but still, it doesn't. Okay, the thing about the Mosaic Law and then that code is that the foundations are different. They teach different things. Their religions are different. I don't think the Jews had any intention to steal from other religions to try to
Where
prove theirs.
where did the Jewish people come from? Where did they originate from?
Oh, okay, of course they came from the same region, but you still have to substantiate that.
Exactly. So you don't think that they were bringing over their old laws with them? You
No,
don't think
they
they
weren't.
carried that with them?
Nope.
Hey,
Nope.
can you cite a source for that, please? I
Okay.
want a source. I don't want
Let
to
me
trust me,
see.
bro.
Okay,
Cite a
okay,
source.
okay.
While he's looking for a source here, Floundering, are you there? I want to see if if Nicholas can hear
I
you.
am here, yes.
Nick, can you hear that?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear
You can't hear it?
anything.
Darn it.
No.
I don't know why. Okay.
Still
Floundering.
trying to get that to work, eh?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you, Floundering. And I'm sure
Hello?
the people that are in chat can hear you. It's just for some reason I'm gonna have to just ask you to hold on for a little bit, and then you and I can discuss. But I'll let these two continue their conversation along with me. They don't have the ability to speak with you. They can't hear you. You could probably hear them, and I don't know why I can't get this to work the other way around. So just patience, please. Thank you. All right. Did you find that source, Tio?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna use the code of Hammurabi. I'm just gonna use that because yeah, it predates the Mosaic Law. So in Law 210 it states that if that woman dies in the context of like someone harming that person, they shall put the murderer's daughter to death. Right? That's the context. That's the law. Now in the Mosaic Law that I guess comes, I don't know, 2,000 3,000 years after. Deuteronomy 24, verse 16 states that parents are not to be put to death for their children, nor children be put to death for their parents. Each will die for their own sin.
I don't
Except for
understand, like,
your
what
claim
that's
that
not, yeah, it's not taken away from what Nick was saying. Oh, hold on. I lost you there.
over
There we go.
any of the old laws with them. That was the source, because you were like, nah. So I wanted the source that states that they weren't also curing the old traditions, old laws from their homeland. That was the source I wanted you to cite me on. However, I will quickly add, while you try and find me that source, that law really didn't apply to other nations. It was only their own nation. And
Yeah, so
again,
what do
we
you
know
think the law
this.
of Moses was for? I
Okay,
mean,
so
come on, guys. That's
again,
like
I think
you
that
just told
it
me to
was
go.
an amendment on previous like other laws. Like
yes.
they were changes on laws that they took from things before them. They weren't the first of these laws. That's the point that we're trying to make. That these things can be
Yeah.
found in other places. That you know, you don't necessarily need the Torah to like find these things. Like, they're not established maybe like
So, like,
specifically
yeah, the
like you're
premise of your
saying.
guys' request is going from whether or not they take it to whether or not they change it. I feel like I've already answered whether or not they took it, and you're saying, well, okay, even if they didn't take it verbatim, they still changed it. I feel like change happens in every society. It doesn't mean they pull it from one another's tooth.
Right,
Yes,
but
it
the
does,
initial
especially
argument
when
was
these.
So
that
what does that
you were trying to infer
prove? That
that these
Judaism is
laws were
false? What does it prove?
created you know, first in, you know, like Leviticus and Deuteronomy, like in the 10 commandments. Like,
No,
Um,
okay, they're created. Yes, they are created in a different time for different people with the mindset that everyone is created in the image of God. There is no generation suffering for the other one, before it. That's not what is taught.
it's the same thing, because back then it was Marduk, and in this story it's Adonai. They were all pulling these laws under some god.
But what does it prove? I've been asking this question for 20 minutes. What does it prove?
It proves that you were wrong in your statement that they weren't pulling from other law codes, that you were making it sound like they made up all this stuff on their own, that God gave these to them, and it wasn't predated.
No,
It
oh no, I
was
didn't mention
predated.
that. I
No,
mentioned that
that's
the
the way you
Mosaic
were
law.
making it sound.
I understand there's ways that things sound, but I did not mention it like that. I stated the Mosaic law separated Israel from any other nation
And I
for this
said
whole.
they didn't. They
But you
didn't,
just
because they didn't
right.
separate them, because they got their law codes from other
Right.
places.
Like, so like the
even if
idea
the
to not schmurder is not like individual to just like Israel, right? Like, this was something
Exactly.
that came before. Like, that's what Nicholas is trying to say, is that, you know, this is not some, like, obviously they did take these from other countries around them,
Okay, so the whole
or
idea
nations.
about generational, punishment. This is, even if this is something that they pull from one criterion and they make it their own, they are still distinct and they are still separate from every single Near East civilization
A
around
lie.
them. We
A
know
lie.
this. This is different. I don't. You're telling me, oh, they pulled it. It's different. I'm
It,
showing
I
you the
mean,
they
difference.
weren't distinct.
it's a little bit tweaked, but like
Yeah, tweaked
overall,
is still different.
It is not different.
I would
The
say
base
they're not unique.
premise of the law remains. No. Yeah, because the base law, the base premise of the law still remains.
And
Thou
yeah,
shalt
like,
not steal.
I'm
Thou
actually
shalt
not
not
sure,
murder.
like, if there's any law codes that establish slavery before. Um,
Okay, so this is your logic, right? If a civilization has a new law, right? it is just a tweaked version of something, right? That's your logic.
It's
Really slow.
still the same law at the base core.
You can't justify a base core because the morality can't really be proven by itself. That's circular.
Base core, thou shalt not steal. That is the base. Now, how you
Okay, so you're
wish to
talking about
describe it,
thievery.
how you wish to describe thou shalt not steal is different. But the base core of the law is do not steal.
Right, yeah.
Thou
No, the
shalt
base
not
core would be
murder.
thievery. It would be thievery.
What do you think thou shalt not steal means?
No, thievery, it's not an opinion, it's a subject. The base core is thievery.
Okay, you still haven't brought me a source, by the way. I would
I
like to.
did.
I don't
I
get the
brought
difference
up
between
the
do not steal and
subject.
thievery. Like thievery is stealing.
Is stealing. Yeah, like that's you're
But the
trying to do
opinion of
semantics,
thievery
but
is
you're
not thievery.
failing.
The opinion of thievery is do not steal, or you would have so and so X, Y, and Z. I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Well, they
Well,
both have like punishments,
I'll be
but
nice.
the law is do not steal, right? So like
Every single law, yeah. Every single law that exists has the same base core. It is the subject, whether or not they difference on opinions, it doesn't make them the same just because they have the base core of it.
I feel like we're going in circles here.
Yeah.
We're not. You just
I
have to
mean,
accept it. I understand it's a
can you cite
religion.
me a source? Can you give me that source?
Okay, you want me to give you another one?
So like
No, I want
let's
an
try
actual
and recap.
source.
Actually, let's recap real quick here. So you're
Okay.
saying that Israel is special, and like the Torah is special because it is it is unique from the nations around them, and this is coming from our earlier discussion of like the slavery prescription that's in like Leviticus and also due to like Exodus and other places in the Old Testament. We're saying that no, it's not unique. Like for instance, slavery was codified first, as far as we know, in the Code of Hammurabi, even. So like even that was taken from another law code. Like beyond the punishment or like whatever, like if these are your fellow Israelites or from the nations around you, like the idea of slavery, like that you could have them or like to codify it came from an earlier in a foreign nation. So the like same thing goes for like do not murder, do not steal, do not like lie, do not commit adultery, as we read in like the 42 ideals of Ma'at. So we're saying that these aren't unique to Israel as far as like the do not do this thing or to or you can have this thing like slaves.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to get at the point that at least these things should be taught in institutions because we have thousands of years of morality itself being debated. And I think it's only fair to project these certain debates and these certain things so that people would have a better understanding of their world. I don't think it's fair.
So are you saying that we should teach kids in school that if they're disobedient to their parents, we should stone them to unalivement?
No, that's not what I said. I said you should teach them the certain debates, right, over morality that has happened between all these civilizations,
So like
right?
okay.
The thing,
So now it's
yeah,
more of like a
that's
rounded. Okay, so we're back. Okay. All right. Well, let's end the conversation there before we go into another
okay.
scary go round, as Joel from my friend Joel Reads Bible would say, because we were on a bit of a scary go round there. Tio, I appreciate you coming up. I am going to move on to my next guest. I might, and then I'm going to try and change the topic. But in order to do that, Nick, I'm going to have to kick you too, unless you want to just chill in
Okay.
silence. It'd be a one-sided conversation.
Either or. I'm like just sitting here doing some junk journaling, so it's totally up to you.
Okay. Well, just so you can hear, in case you do want to come back up, I'll let you do that. So I'm going to disconnect everybody there, and I will bring up Floundering. So thank you all. All right. Floundering, are you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I just get your age real quick?
Yeah, I'm 30.
All right. And so do you think God should be taught in schools? Or did you come up from something else that we kind of went
Uh,
out there?
no, no, I'm fine with the prompt. I just want to know. I want to clarify what you mean by the prompt first. Are you putting rel- are you putting how do I put this? Are you putting teaching religion and religious belief in school on trial, or are you saying should the history of God be taught in school? Like, what exactly is the prompt asking?
So kind of all of that. It's more or less like what people get from the prompt. The prompt is more just kind of, to bring people in for the
You're leaving it
discussion.
open on purpose?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
personally, I
Okay.
would like to discuss, like things like the Bible being, like part of the curriculum, and like the use of like the 10 commandments and things like that in public schools in
Okay.
America. But
Do you see the
overall, I like
sorry to interrupt.
go on.
Do you see the Bible as a foundational part of the English language?
Of the English language?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like
Because you
Hebrew
said talk.
is, I would
You
say
said
like
you said you
Hebrew
want to
is
talk about.
part of the English like language, like the
You said you wanted to talk about teaching the Bible in school, and I just want to. I want to just slightly clarify again. Do you mean teaching the Bible as in the truthfulness of the Bible, the veracity of the Bible, or do you mean teaching the Bible just? It could be in any
well,
context.
like in
Just
Oklahoma,
having.
for instance, like Oklahoma,
Sure. Yeah.
they have part of like like the textbooks that are required is including the Trump Bible, which is like the
Okay.
KJV version.
Okay.
So do you agree
Um.
that like that should be done in schools?
A Bible specifically. Okay. What I hear what you've said as far as what you want to talk about, and
We can take this other way, like other places too. Like that's just kind of where like my mind was when I made it. I kind of wanted to make a both a religious and a political topic, and that's
okay.
kind of where I landed.
Does the idea of teaching religion in any context bother you? I mean, as far as like
If
the teacher has a
it's
religious belief.
grounded, like if it's like a world religions class, like they say like, okay, here's a couple examples of Eastern religions, here's a couple examples of
Right.
like South American religions, here's a couple examples of like the opposite of religion, like secularism, then sure,
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
So like in that context,
But
I
it
would say
but it
like teaching of like God, as like the Christian God is part of like this greater, like rounded topic, then sure, that's fine. But
okay.
a lot of people would disagree with that, and they would say like, no, Christianity is what we should be teaching our kids, because Christianity is what is going to make America like progress and be better.
Sure. What I want to do is I want to create a spectrum with you here, with what you just said on one end, and the other end being an obviously biased teacher who has a fundamentalist Christian belief teaching that the Bible is true on the other end.
Okay.
And I want to know where you draw the line on that spectrum, and if we could go a little bit farther from your position and say, what if a teacher is teaching that the Bible is fundamental to original American values, historical American values, not necessarily that the Bible is true, but that it was truly a facet of historical American values?
I would have to look at how they, I guess, would make that argument. Like to say
Okay,
that,
I just want to know where on this spectrum you believe is a breach of separation of church and state.
right, and I understand what you're
Where's the
saying.
breach at?
So like the breach would be any kind of like favoritism, right? To one like religion over another. So like if you are willing to teach any kind of like Christian as an establishment of like American values, then I think that it would be fair to also teach like how, like American values are also probably more so reliant on like Western philosophy, and like maybe like Greek or Hellenistic beliefs, or even like, just philosophy in general from like ancient
Okay,
Greece.
but a history, an American, let's just say this is an American history class, okay?
Sure.
An American history class could get into those subjects, but it is limited in scope because there are only 180 some odd school days. So it's
Right.
it's like if the class is narrowing the scope to certain subjects, let's just say based on state by state, I do believe that states, from state to state, I do believe schools should be competitive in their what do you call it? In their they should be
Yeah.
competitive in what
Can
they
you turn
teach.
your mic down a
And
little bit? Or is there like
down,
something, is
yeah,
there like a teapot or a kettle like whistling in the background?
a teapot. No, it's the neighbors. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Is there a way to
it
like,
should be fixed in a second. It should be
okay,
fixed in a
sorry.
second.
It's
Can you hear me
just
better now? Yep.
yeah.
Okay. So as far as the curriculum, that was the word I was looking for. As far as the curriculum
No,
goes,
you're
I do
right.
think schools should be competitive, but I also do think that if an American history class wants to teach about Christianity specifically in the context of the teacher is not necessarily pushing Christianity, but they are teaching that Christianity is foundational to the formation of a lot of our laws and a lot of our cultural values, I don't have a problem with that at all. And I don't think it's a breach of church and state.
See, I would disagree though that
Okay. On
Christianity
what
is
grounds?
foundational. Well, I mean, you're the one making the claim here now.
Well,
So
you said you disagree.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I would ask you to like back that up, right?
To justify it? Okay. Well, I kind of did. Unless you want me to get
Like,
into the specifics of why I think Christianity is one of the cruxes of
well,
American
refresh
culture
my memory.
values,
How
because
did you do that?
it was part of the claim that I added in that I don't believe it to be a breach of church and state if the
No,
teacher is teaching
I understand
that.
that, but how is it
Yeah.
foundational? Like now we're getting into like the actual topic of
Sure.
Christianity being foundational to like America, because I would say that that's like American values, I guess, is what you're trying to say. I would say that I disagree in that
Mhm.
that it's relied more on philosophy and like Western philosophy to be exact.
Okay, Western philosophy originating from where?
From like ancient Greece, like Aristotle, Socrates.
Sure, you don't
Plato.
think it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different philosophies?
Well, yeah, but I'm
You
not
don't
going to
think
say
that
that Christianity alone is, like as a philosophy, you could say that, yeah, sure,
right, but this
Christianity
isn't a
is
right,
part
but we're
of
talking about this
something, but to like
an
put it
American
in a,
history class.
yeah, to tunnel vision that to me
Mhm.
seems like it would be breaking the establishment clause of the First Amendment.
Okay. What exactly do you think is the establishment clause trying to prevent?
Any kind
Is
of
it is it,
like
it
prescriptive
like are you
religion.
a state sponsored religion?
Right.
Okay, you
Like,
said prescriptive. I don't think that the teacher would be making any prescriptive claims by saying that within the history of America, some of the foundations of cultural values of people were based on Christianity. I don't think that's the prescriptive.
so like if you're saying like the Puritans that came over like as like
No, not just the Puritans, the original colonies,
yeah, then sure, like
because it
that's
was
fine. Like
nine out of 13 of the colonies, I think, were Christian.
to discuss like what these people believed, these early like colonies, the colonizers, what they believed in, like to like say what their religion was, sure, but to say like that is now what like the ideal of America is based off of, that's kind of where I guess I would draw that line. of like where the
Okay,
establishment
so
clause
so
would
we're
kind
back at
of
the
come
colonies,
into
and
play.
it's 9 or 10. It's 9 or 10 or 11. It's a majority of the colonies had Christianity as their
They also thought like
what
women
would you
were
call it?
witches in, you know, like Salem, Massachusetts. So like, is that
They were yes, they were
foundational to
briefly
how?
convinced
I
by a
mean,
bunch of young girls. They were briefly convinced by a bunch of young girls that were hallucinating. Yes, I agree with that.
it was
Um,
also like part of doctrine at the time. Like
okay,
they had like
yeah,
whole
yeah.
papal like, you know, decrees, and they had in fact like ways to fight witchcraft
Right, but was it
even
in
before
was it
the
in was
colonies.
it in common law or legislation?
I believe it was in, this was like, this predates any kind of like legislation that would have been like for the
Was it in any of
colonies.
the common law?
The common law, like, you're asking like what within each town, like within each like group? I mean, I would say that yeah, they're
I
like kind
just
of.
what I truly want to get to is I believe that the onus would be on you to separate, to make a distinction between, okay, 9 out of 10, 10 out, or sorry, 9 out of 13, 10 out of 13 of the colonies were definitely Christian, and it was a state, and it was a colony-wide thing that they agreed that we are Christian and that Christianity is our value. I need you to make the distinction between that and saying, but Christianity was not foundational to cultural values of America.
Okay,
That somehow they're not
I
bringing it
would
with
say
them
that
into the future on a
Christianity
generational level.
maybe one brick in the foundation.
Okay.
I'm not saying that
I
like
just don't
the
understand
foundation
that. I just don't
itself is
understand how you make that
Christian.
distinction.
So because there's a dangerous line that we're trying to like make here, where we're like going from like Christian nationalism to, you know, like just what, like, I guess like patriotism, right? So like American values, I would say I can be an American and have nothing to do with Christianity.
Okay, so do you think that a person should be able to vote for any reason? Let's take a modern American male. He's 25. It's the presidential run for the president. There's two candidates. Should he be able to vote for either candidate for any reason he can come up with? Anything? Because
Yeah.
because you believe he has a right to vote, correct? A right
yeah.
means that. What does a right mean? It means that there is no reason you could give to take it
Are you
away
getting
from him.
into the like inalienable rights part of like?
No, I'm not going there. I just want to ask you, do you believe that he could come up with any reason to vote for either candidate?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
What if he wanted to vote for one candidate because he was a Christian?
Then sure. Like that's his.
Okay.
That's up to him.
Okay. If the majority of the American democracy or the American Democratic Republic, whatever we're going to call it, if the American electorate was majority Christian, would that be Christian nationalism? If they were voting based on their Christian beliefs?
To force like them to like vote for somebody because they are Christian, I would say it would lean further.
I haven't
into,
talked
like,
about force. I haven't talked about force because what we're talking
Right.
about is
So like
we're not
then
talking.
I would say that, you know, like if a majority, like if everybody, you know, thinks that Schmurder is wrong, then yeah, there's an axiomatic kind of like agreed upon. So yeah, by like axiom, then I guess it would be Christian. But in this hypothetical,
I'm going to take it one step further. I just want to I want to follow. I want you to follow me along with this train of logic here. And I want to go one step further, and I want to say, what if it's already an elected politician and they are legislating, or they're judging from the bench, or they're doing, or they're the president and they're writing executive orders based on their Christian beliefs from any of the three branches of government?
I would say that
they are saying,
doing it
I'm a
wrong.
Christian.
Like, I disagree
what they
with,
do is, I'm a
like James
Okay,
Tallarico,
why?
for instance. I think that like the way that like Christianity and God gets brought up in like civic duty breaks the establishment clause, because I don't think, I mean, like maybe he is trying to appeal to his fellow Christians,
But there's no, okay, but it's not, what you're not understanding is that there's no force here. There's no, that, let's just say a governor of a state is saying, I pardoned this guy because I'm a Christian, or I signed this into law because I'm a Christian, or I had this guy,
But
you know,
so if you're
whatever it
signing
was.
something into law because of your like Christian values, I guess, and you are a representative of like the, you know, like I guess populace, then maybe that's fine. But like to then now force somebody, like say like gay marriage, you know, some some Christians define, you know, that as being wrong.
Right.
To say that, you know, like what's her face that was not allowing marriage licenses out because of her Christian values, that would be going against like what the Constitution says.
I disagree, because no one is,
Why didn't
she's
why
not
didn't the
forcing
Supreme
any.
Court just take that case up?
Well, hold on. I'm going to tell you how I disagree first. I disagree on the grounds that by not issuing marriage licenses, she's not forcing anyone to not get married. There's no,
if you can't
there's
be legal, like if you don't have the license for the marriage, you can't file your taxes as joint filers.
Okay, but where is the force here? Where is the state-sponsored,
if you're not giving them something
state-sanctioned
that
religion?
If she's saying like it's against her religion, then she should be fired, I would guess, right? Because she's not doing her civic duty. Her civic duty is to give out licenses. It doesn't matter what religion she is. That's where the
She could be
separation of church and
impeached, but that would
state,
depend on the,
like that's where the separation
okay.
happens. Do you understand? Like the
Okay.
civic duty of her giving out a license is a civic duty. Her personal religious beliefs should not infringe upon that duty. That's where the separation happens.
But there's no coercive force here. There's no coercion. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for there's no compulsion. There's no saying, well, you normally could get married, but instead you can't because I'm a Christian. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is no. What it's not. No, that's not what it's saying. Is no. Wait a second. That's not what it is saying, because the current laws on the books do not specify based on sexuality. The current laws on the books,
the current laws have it based on sexuality. It's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are protected classes of people, and you cannot you cannot
and
discriminate.
Now we're gonna have to get into the Civil Rights Act. Now we're gonna have to get into the Civil Rights Act.
It's a
Could
bill
you
that
cite
got
for me
passed.
in the Civil Rights Act? Could you cite for me in the Civil Rights Act where it says that people
Article 7
should be allowed to get married based on their sexuality? Article 7. Okay. Well, we could go to Article 7 if you want to. Sure.
Civil Rights Act. I believe it's Article 7. It's been a bit here. Civil Rights Act of 1964. Article 7. Let's read it here. Okay. So, is a landmark federal law prohibiting employment. This is employment discrimination, I guess. So, this would still be, I would say that this is still like establishing the protected classes based on race, color, religion, or sex, including pregnancy, sexual orientation, or gender identity, and national origin.
Okay. Is the sexual orientation portion of that an interpretation,
is the word
or
sex
the written
in the term sexual orientation?
Well, you and I both know that sexual orientation and sex are not the same thing, are they?
Is sex a base word for sexual?
Do you understand that sex and sexual orientation do not mean the same thing?
Discrimination based off sex involves sexual orientation. So like I would say, like,
no,
if a man is attracted to another man, that is a sex-based.
That is a claim. That is a claim that you're going to need to back up, because now what you're saying is that sex and sexual orientation are inextricably linked.
Discrimination based off of sex.
How are they linked?
Sexual
By
orientation.
what basis do you say that sex and sexual orientation are linked?
So I am a man, right? Okay.
Yep.
Or a male. Let's go with the actual like proper terms here. So
you're a male.
I'm a male. That's my sex. I'm attracted to other males.
Okay.
That is another sex. Now, to
Okay.
say you can't get married because you two are both males is discrimination.
Do you understand that you just
based
smuggled that in?
on
Do you understand that you
sex.
smuggled that
How?
in? That you smuggled in the idea that sex and sexual orientation are somehow inextricably linked, and you're going to need to demonstrate that.
Yeah, sexual. The word is in the term. Sexual.
Yes, but okay. This is a word concept fallacy, and what you're not understanding is that sex and sexual orientation have different definitions. So you're trying to smuggle in the idea that sexual orientation and sex are inextricably linked, and I'm going to need you to demonstrate that, because there are sexes that do not have the same sexual orientation, and sex and sexual orientation do not mean the same thing.
Okay, so further, all right. In Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, was actually like brought up in a Supreme Court ruling, Bostock versus Clayton County, that sexual orientation is covered under Title VII. That it is a protected class, and that it is a form of sex-based discrimination. Bostock versus Clayton County, 2020 Supreme Court case.
Okay, let's go to Bostock versus Clayton. I'm at least familiar with this in name.
This one's one where it's an employer
I've read
fired
this.
somebody for being transgender or being homosexual.
Protects employees against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity.
Right.
Okay. What I want to know here is how does this case
protected classes? The protected classes.
No, don't smuggle that in yet. Hold on. Wait a second. This is specifically saying that an interpretation of Title VII protects employees against discrimination. Wait, hold on. Protects discrimination and unjust termination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity for employment. Okay? We are talking about marriage licenses.
Right.
Now, if you want to say that the interpretation should be broadly interpreted, or I'm sorry, that this ruling by the Supreme Court should be broadly interpreted.
All right, let's change it from sex. Okay, say if somebody like a white woman and a black man wanted to get married, could you say no? Because I'm I'm Mormon, and that you're like to have darker skin means you're cursed. You have the curse of I can't remember what's his face off of.
No, I'm already willing to bite the bullet that sexual orientation is a protected class. That's not what I was arguing. What I was arguing is that you need. Okay,
like
I've already bit the bullet on that. I've already conceded that
discrimination.
Yes,
sex-based.
But that wasn't my argument. My argument was, how do you say that we are going to extrapolate the logic that they used to protect employees to the logic that now needs to be applied to marriage licenses?
Because
why is it? Why? Oh, wait. Let me land the plane for a second. Why is it that a private corporation cannot discriminate based on this aspect, but that also means that a governor or any politician that can issue marriage licenses now must issue marriage licenses? I want to know where it says that in the Supreme Court ruling.
These are precedences, right? Like the Supreme Court doesn't they're interpreting these things. They're setting the precedent.
Yeah, right. And they are very hyper specific with their language. They are hyper specific with their language. Hyper specific.
And Kim Davis's case was not taken up by the Supreme Court for a reason, right?
Where is the specificity in talking about marriage licenses? Where is it in this ruling?
The ruling is I'm just saying, like, that is a ruling that's showing that discrimination based on like sexual orientation is a sex-based discrimination. We have protected classes.
Yep, and I can bite the bullet on that because I can bite the bullet on that and I can say, fine, for sake of argument, I will agree with you. Sexual orientation is a protected class. And then you cited this Supreme Court ruling as an example of why it ties back to our conversation about marriage licenses, and I don't see that connection.
Okay.
I don't see how you can.
So
I don't see how you can apply it.
you would be discriminating based off sex if you're not allowing a marriage license to be given to two like
How
men.
is the ruling that you cited evidence of that?
Because they just established what sex-based discrimination is. I don't know if
Okay.
you're like if you like the line of logic is like sticking with you here. So like the
We've already.
establishment is, you know, I think you're thinking like because it was an employee that marriage licenses don't apply. But what I'm saying is that you cannot discriminate against a protected class, just like how you can't
I'm saying that you are making hyper-specific language into a general principle, and it isn't right.
just like
You're not understanding that the opinions on Bostock versus Clayton, say nothing about how we are supposed to extrapolate our understanding of protected classes about preventing discrimination of employment into issuing marriage licenses. They don't say anything about it.
No, what I'm
and I'm asking you, do you understand that this language is hyper specific?
The idea of discrimination, and we don't have to have it be sex-based. Let's have it be race-based. So let's say a white woman who's a Mormon is giving out licenses, and a black man and a white woman are trying to get their marriage license, and she says no, because my specific Mormon religion says that he's cursed, and that, you know, because he has darker skin, that he's got the curse of Ham or whatever it's called, and for that reason, I'm not going to give this license. Do you think that would be allowed? Because that's what you're inferring.
Of course not.
Is that?
Of course not. No, I'm not inferring that. I'm. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, we did agree that sexual orientation would be part of this sex-based discrimination. So like racial,
yes,
like your race is race-based discrimination. Just I'm replacing the word sex with race, and now you have made an argument that white women and like anybody of another race, any two different races, can't get married to each other.
I didn't make that argument. But the argument that I made was the Supreme Court ruling. I didn't make that argument. The argument that I made.
Sex, then you can discriminate on race.
No. Wait a second.
If your religion prevents that, or is like coming into play here.
The argument that I made was that Bostock versus Clayton is not good evidence for your argument, because your argument was that somehow
that, okay, we can throw out Bostock versus Clayton now, because we're not talking about just sex-based discrimination. I'm saying
we're talking about how your logic extrapolates from discrimination to employees to marriage licenses. How does it extrapolate? How does the logic move forward? And what I'm telling, how does it cross this barrier of the fact that their hyper-specific language did not include marriage licenses? Now, if you don't want to talk about Bostock versus Clayton anymore, that's fine. But the argument,
like exegete, like
you're going to need to provide a substantial example, I think. At least this is how I think we break the threshold here, is that you're going to need to provide a specific example in which the language establishes that preventing the issuing of marriage licenses based on sexual orientation is discrimination.
No, what I'm saying that is it would break the Establishment Clause to not give out a marriage license because your religion. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter about sex.
Well, at this point, it wouldn't matter what their logic is, right? Because you're saying that.
Because I'm saying that
wait.
Is claiming her religion is why she would not give out those licenses. Then a Mormon who is saying that a darker skinned person has the curse of Ham could use that as a reason to not give out a license to a mixed race couple. And
but now you're saying that it wouldn't matter what reason they have for discriminating.
All right, and like I'm changing the like wording here because I don't think it's making sense to you, unless I make it kind of more of a like race-based argument instead of a sexual orientation. Even though Bostock versus whatever it was, or whatever we just named off earlier, I'd have to look it back up. But
Bostock versus Clayton.
Yeah, versus Clayton is it does establish that sexual orientation is discrimination based off of sex, which is established as a protected class in Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, I understand that that does mention employers, but this is also an establishment of what a protected class is. So, like, just how people take like hermeneutics with the Bible and they, take parts of the Bible and they say, okay, well, this word and this term is here. Well, then maybe I can apply it over here if it's the same word and same terms, like that's what the Supreme Court is doing. Does that make sense? Oh, he left. All right. Let me see here. Oh, I think he's back up. Hold
Can you
on.
hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Can you hear me? I got disconnected. Sorry.
Sure. Did you hear what I was saying though?
I did. I heard all of it. I have the stream up.
Does it
I heard
make
all of
a
it.
little bit of sense?
It does. It certainly does make sense.
Okay, so that's where I would draw the line, like between civic duty. So like if a teacher is teaching religion and is not favoring any single religion as, establishing or more important than another.
Okay, but you and
then
I both know
fine.
that Islam is clearly not core to American cultural
I
values.
don't think that Christianity is just as much. I would say that maybe
That's
overall,
okay.
maybe you could say like all the Abrahamic religions in general have some sort of influence.
If we were to make a hierarchy right now, if we were to make a hierarchy of which religions you think were most fundamental to helping establish American values, where do you think Islam would be on that hierarchy?
In the same place that Christianity and Judaism would be, because they're all
that's
they're all the same.
That's completely and utterly
I would say
retarded, and you know that it is.
Whoa, dude! Let's not use ableistic language, please.
That's bad faith, and you know it.
No, you just like dropped a slur. I'm gonna have to drop you, man. Sorry.
The language is retarded.
Your words, dude. Your words. Wow. Crash out. Yep, there's that Christian love with that slur. All right, everybody. You know what? I got another guest. Oh, I got a violation for hate speech. And I got restricted. I'm gonna have to close the live down because since he wasn't a TikTok guest, somebody had to report it, and it got reported as me. So I'm going to have to drop the live, and I'm about 30 minutes off of my thing, and honestly, yeah, he probably did report it. I don't know. I don't even know what happened there, Lauren. But so, anyways, I usually stop at 6. We're gonna stop at 5:30. Is Joel on? I miss you too, Lauren. If Joel's on, Joel reads Bible. He's got a lot of similar debates. Ours got a little bit more political there, which I liked. I was almost there. Hold on. MM2, are you still around? Let's talk.
Yeah.
What's your age real quick?
58.
Okay. And then what do you mean by I was almost there?
The issuing of a marriage license is part of their due process rights. So not only does the Supreme Court hold that sexuality is a protected class, but it's also a constitutional right. So using religion as a basis to deny that right is in and of itself a violation of the Constitution. It's subject to strict scrutiny.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to get him.
But
yeah,
that's
I
your
was
premise
almost
to be
there.
God.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like in a
you said to connect the dots.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying real hard, but then he just dropped the slurs, and then we got reported.
Yeah. There's not a single piece of legislation that identifies any protected class. It's all done by court interpretation.
Right, exactly.
Court interpretation of the statute is required.
Yeah, they should.
Every statute
codify.
is interpreted as applied.
They should codify. I mean, it would take probably a while though, because there's a lot of discussion, like with the trans discussion too. Even
problem with codifying is the same problem the founders had with the Bill of Rights, which is why they wrote the 10th Amendment. That says basically it says that the listing of certain rights as protected doesn't mean that that's an exhaustive list. Same thing with protective classes. You may always find another protective class. And it's open. It's supposed to be open ended. And you don't want to make a list, because when you make a list, you limit rights.
Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that, and and then leave it up to and hope for
the court.
Maybe pack the courts a little bit more then, so they don't
Yeah.
swing one way too far. All right. Well, I appreciate that, MM2. I think that's a good capstone to our discussion. And like I said, I do have to stop the live because they did give me a violation there. So I appreciate you, and everybody else. Thank you for coming up. This is just close enough to my, sign off time. So everybody go raid Joel Reads Bible. He's on YouTube and he's on TikTok. All one word, Joel Reads Bible. Go over there, tell him Benny sent you. Say Benny boy loves you, Joel, and he misses you. All right. So everybody have a good night.